Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hello Velocity podcast, where we help corporate women level up without burning out. I'm your host, Brittany Canaski, leadership coach and trainer here at Hello Velocity. And today we're joined by Mandy Rogers to talk about investing in your relationship with yourself. Mandy has spent the last 8 years in the tech startup world, building her career in fast-moving environments, while also running her own consulting business as a fractional chief of staff, where she supports founders and teams with strategy and growth. Her path hasn't been linear. She's experienced her fair share of pivots, which has shaped her into someone who proudly identifies as a cycle breaker, committed to building a life that feels aligned and intentional. Mandy is also the host of Empowered and has both hosted and spoken at women's empowerment events. She's passionate about helping women feel confident, supported, and empowered to create lives on their own terms. Ooh, I feel empowered just listening to that, Mandy.
That's the goal. That is ideally the goal.
Yes. Well, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you. And I know I was on your podcast a few years ago now, so I'm glad we're able to reciprocate here and get to interview you as well. And I was thinking about it. We met several years ago at a networking event, and I've just really admired your personal professional growth over the last few years. And something that really stood out to me is about how you've been intentionally having solo dates lately. And I know it's something you've been sharing with me personally, sharing online as well about your journey and what you're learning. So I'm so excited to bring you on and share more about that experience today.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be talking about it. It's crazy to think that we met. When I think about it, I'm like, yeah, it's been a handful of years, and you've kind of gotten to watch the evolution, I would say, over the last, we've met 5 years ago, I would say, right? Like
Wow.
4 or 5 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, at least.
So
Yeah,
it's been a crazy evolution that you've had
from
kind of like a front seat to.
yeah. I've been honored to be on the journey with you and watch you grow. And I know you've been in a few different roles too, and then starting your consulting business too, which has been really exciting. And then I know on my end too, I think we met right before I got married too. So you've seen a lot of that, my personal growth as well, and changes and the business changes. And yeah, it's been fun to go through it all together. Yeah, and I know one big thing we've talked about a lot whenever we get together for our walks is stress and burnout. I know it's something we both have been navigating over these last 4 or 5 years. So tell us more about your journey with stress and burnout.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I've been in startups for 8 years. And if anybody has worked maybe even 30 days in a startup, startup years, I say are like dog years. So it's like 1 year in a startup year is 7 years. It really can burn you out quickly. It can take a toll pretty easily. And the joy of a startup is you can grow and learn a lot very quickly. The downside of a startup is the expectations and pressure are very high. Things move very fast, and you're likely covering multiple roles, which was my personal experience. Like in my first startup, I was like, oh, I love this. This is so much fun. But by the age of 25, I was burnt out in a way that like I didn't understand. And my peers were like, what's happening? What's going on? I had like what I identified as my quarter life crisis. I went skydiving on my 25th birthday and took a solo trip to France because I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm not feeling anything right now. I'm
Mm.
kind of numb. I'm so burnt out. So I think at that moment I was like, oh, this is real. This is serious. Like this can catch up with me pretty quickly. And since that point, like I've just been hyper aware of what my burnout signs are, what leads to it, and then how I can kind of preventatively be a little more aware and intentional ahead of time before because I do hit this like when I hit the end stage of burnout, it takes me months to crawl my way back. And that's a
Mhm.
really like, it's a detrimental spot to be in, right? It doesn't feel good. You're not feeling good. So I try to avoid getting all the way to that end burnout stage and just being really proactive to do so.
Definitely. Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I've heard that from so many people on the podcast this season. We're all talking about different, ways stress and burnout kind of sneak up on us. So what are some of those signs for you that you know it's coming and, those like red flags that, okay, you need to be proactive so it doesn't turn into this multi-month process of coming back?
So I have an autoimmune disease on top of like being someone who really loves uh, pushing themselves in a way that's probably not normal and or healthy. So fatigue for me is something that is like it's my norm, but I can tell when the fatigue is incurable, right? Like if
Mhm.
I catch up on rest, if I spend a week kind of recouping, going to bed early, doing the things I need to be doing, and it's still not moving the needle at all, that's a big yellow flag for me of like, all right, this is more than just standard fatigue. This is like deep to your core fatigue. You're exhausted, you're burnt out here. Another thing is like I'm an introverted extrovert. I really like my time alone, but when I find that I don't want to spend time with anybody at all,
Mhm.
and I'm really becoming like a little recluse, and it's very easy for me to do, is like I'll just curl up with a dog on the couch every night and be like, I don't need anybody, this is fine. If I haven't seen people in about a week, that's a big warning sign of like, hey, you might be going a little internal, you might be dealing with something else. And then another thing that I find is I get a little grumpy and it's like I'm really irritable. And I find it that it's hard for me to maybe find the upside in things. Like I'm naturally a glass half full kind of gal. I like to try to be optimistic. I like to be happy about things. Like I just love being joyful. And when I cannot find that joy and I'm looking around feeling like everything is on fire and everything is miserable and there's no joy in my day to day, that is like probably my end red flag of like, all right, we've reached the peak and you're really like on a fast track to burnout and you're not far.
Wow, I love those descriptions. I'm sure so many people can relate to that. And honestly, as you're describing, those are probably my three key indicators too, if I had to really like stop and think about it a little bit more, especially the like becoming a recluse where I'm an extroverted introvert. So I'm naturally love my alone time and all that. But I still do need time with other people. So yeah, when I find myself, oh, it's been a week or two and I haven't, planned any social events or gone out with friends or done much outside the house because I work from home. Like, ooh, this is too much. I need to be doing something, or something's off, and I need to check in with myself. So love that example.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
find myself like in the house I work from home as well. So it's like, and I'll get my groceries delivered. Like I could spend
Mm.
weeks on end in the house if I'm in burnout. And then I'm like, okay, maybe we go to the grocery store. Maybe we don't get groceries delivered this week. Like maybe we actually leave the house. So yeah, it'll sneak up on me very quickly.
Yeah, it's easy to fall into that too and not know it. I think that's one of the key pieces of burnout too. Like you said, it kind of like builds up over time. And yeah, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks here and there, this happens. But then you realize, oh, it's been a repeating pattern too. And it just keeps happening. You're like, oh, there's something more happening here. It's not just, oh, I was tired this week. There's a little bit deeper,
Y-
something deeper going on there.
Yeah, and you'll have like there are heavy weeks. Don't get me wrong. Like there are weeks where you're like, man, that was a week that really got me. When they start stacking up and piling up week after week, and you're not having any wins, you're not seeing the joy in your weeks, that's when it's like, all right, this is not just a heavy week, a heavy season. Like I'm actually burning myself out.
Mm. Yeah. So, how did this idea of solo dates come about, and how do you see it connecting to burnout?
So the easiest way for me to burn out for myself is pouring into everybody else. I like to say a recovering people pleaser. So
Mm.
I am working on tendencies that I just self-abandon. It's so easy to be like, how is everyone else doing? How are things going all around me and not check in
Mm.
internally? And so for me, it was like, all right, I know if I'm self-abandoning, it's a one-way track to burnout. I'm going to be burnt out. I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to be resentful and I'm going to be miserable. And it was like, how do I romanticize the time with myself? How do I find joy? And how do I stop like looking externally for everything I need and finding it internally so that I can maintain that balance to avoid the burnout? I find that when I'm really in tune with myself, I'm less likely to burn out because I'm hearing those signs. When I'm in tune with everybody else, I'm very likely to ignore those warning signs, let it go weeks on end, and then be like, oh God, we're here. So to be able to turn internally, like, was the goal of these solo dates. And I also had this moment of like, man, I need to do things to disconnect. I need to do things to unplug. I need to do things to be present. The more present I am, the less likely I am to burn out. And it was like, I could do those things. And like my friends, most of my friends are married. They're all in really happy, healthy relationships. And we love this for them. And I was like, I don't have my person to go do this with. Like, and also, I want to do it with myself. Like, how cool is it that I can take the time to romanticize and spend that time with myself and get a little internal to have it be quiet? There's nobody else kind of putting input, nobody sharing things. And I can really just sit with myself to say, how am I feeling? What am I experiencing? And what's going on?
Wow. Yeah, that level of self awareness is huge. And I think a lot of us get caught up at some point, if not all the time, in just the autopilot mode, I call it, where you're just going through the motions, the day to day, you're taking care of yourself, people around you. and the things you need to get done at work and at home to sometimes the bare minimum, sometimes maybe a little bit more than that. But yeah, this is that next level of being proactive, being intentional, being self-aware of where you're at, what you need, what you want, and bringing more joy into your life, it sounds like, too, and just being intentional about joy and not just going through the adulting motions like most people. And then we wake up one day, you're like, am I really even that happy? What do I do that brings me joy? And sometimes people don't have much that they're doing that is that intentional.
Yeah, I think it's easy to not know too. Like if you spend every moment with other people doing things that seem fun and joyful, if you sit back and say, like, what do I love to do? Oftentimes it's likely influenced by those around you. And that's a fun and beautiful thing to be like, great, I love to do these other things with people, but what do you enjoy doing? Like, and when do you ever find the time to learn about that? It's like if you don't make the time to learn about what you love and what you're passionate about, you might never know, and you might never actually fully know. And I was like, I'm not okay with living my life like that. I'm not okay with not knowing what I love and what makes me feel joyful. I am a big fan of like childlike joy. I was just at Disney last week and I was like, I love this. This is silly, this is fun, but like if I just did the things that other people did, I might not know that I like that because I don't know that my friends really like going to do that's not really usually their thing. And they'd be like, that's okay. And so I was like, oh, great. I can go alone. I can do these things alone. It's okay. And then it allows me to lean into the things that I really love. I think there is one key part here where it's like I had to reverse engineer my most productive self and myself of I want to show up as my best version, right? And that impacts how I show up at work. It impacts how I show up in my consulting business, how I show up in relationships. And understanding that if I didn't make time for myself and have joy and moments of joy in that, I wasn't going to show. It's like, I can't have that. I will not show up as that version. There's no way it's possible. I'm pouring from an empty cup, if you will. And so I had to find like those pockets of joy.
Totally agree. That's one of my favorite things to talk about with clients is that you have to pour into your own cup first before you can pour into other people's cups. And especially when you're professionally advanced, or you're a leader or you have your own company, like all these things that can be very taxing on you intellectually, mentally, emotionally, all of these things. You need to really be taking care of yourself first and foremost. And one other thing that you mentioned earlier that I wanted to kind of circle back on is this idea of you being single. You said a lot of your friends are married and happy, and we love that. And I want to emphasize too how important this is also for married people, people with kids, single moms, anywhere you're at in a romantic relationship, whether you're in one or not in one or kind of in one or situationship, whatever it is, this is super important to be taking care of yourself and finding that joy on your own. And I think it's probably really hard on both ends, whether you're single or in a serious relationship. Because if you're single, you're like maybe waiting for the partner to go do the fun stuff with. But then if you're in a partnership, you're likely compromising on the stuff that you're doing and doing it always with someone else and not taking the time to intentionally be by yourself. So it's kind of this interesting dynamic, I think, on both ends that everyone needs to do it, but it's also hard for everyone. Do you see that too?
I I dare say it's harder, and maybe I think it's harder for me in a relationship to do the things. And I
Mm-hmm.
can't even imagine like mothers trying to do the things because there's this societal pressure of like self-abandon, prioritize your children, prioritize your family, and neglect yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine how difficult it is to like take that step to say, no, I need to prioritize myself because that is the best thing I could do for everyone around me. That is
Mm-hmm.
not an easy ask, especially like the more you take on, the more roles you take on, the more responsibilities you have, right? So if I were to take on being a girlfriend, those are additional responsibilities and those take time. And it's less time that I would have to then do the solo dating. I think it's a different level of hard where it's like the solo dating, that level of hard when you're single is the discomfort of going and being somewhere that everybody is with other people and doing that alone. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable, that's awkward. There's a couple of different things you can do to make that easier, but then on the flip side, the more responsibilities you have and the more roles you have, it's harder to find the time. And especially if you're in this pattern of like, I'm not taking care of myself or I'm prioritizing everybody else and I've not yet put myself first. It's so hard to shift that, especially if you have an
Mm-hmm.
identity built on that, right? People are depending on you. Tiny humans are depending on you. You have a partner depending on you. That's such a hard shift to make, just not just for you, but for them as well. And then hoping that they receive it as well. But I think more often than not, people want to see you be the best version of yourself. Like they
Mm.
want the most joyous, happy, carefree, healthy version of you. And that requires you taking that time for yourself to really pour back into yourself.
Yeah, I see it a lot with my clients, friends, family members who are moms. There's that level of guilt when you go do something for yourself by yourself without the kids, without the husband, partner. And I wish we could change our mindset or even society mindset around this to be, oh, this is again, it's filling your own cup before you can pour into other people. You need to take care of yourself. You need to prioritize yourself. You need to have fun, be joyful, and how amazing would it be to think that instead of feeling guilty, the people around you would encourage that and support you and celebrate that, right? I think that may happen more often than we expect it to. So we kind of put it off thinking, oh, everyone's going to be mad if I go spend an hour on a walk at a greenway by myself and listen to my favorite podcast, whatever it is. That's one of my favorites. But yeah, something like that, as simple as that, or go on a coffee date by myself. I think other people might celebrate you more than you expect, especially in your family unit. And if not, it's worth having that conversation. Like, I need this hour to myself to be the best mom that I can be, to be the best wife, to be whatever it is, and to show up how I want to show up for you. Easy as that.
Yeah. When you do that, you also give them permission to do that too, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you're giving them permission and setting the example. So if you're a mother, you're setting the example of, hey, we don't self-abandon to take care of the people we love because that's not
Mm-hmm.
the expectation. And even for your partner, it's like, hey, as a partner, I want you to be able to go and do the things you need to do to be the best version. And I see it with my friends where they're like, oh, you're doing this solo dating. That's really cool. I actually want to start doing something like that. It's so many people message me and be like, hey, you've inspired me to do that. That's kind of brave. That's fun. I should be doing more of that. So it's like when you do those intentional things, I don't think we realize it normally has a ripple effect and people start to see, oh, there is permission for me to do that. That is okay for me to do. And that's an option for me as well.
So, what are some of your, we've mentioned a few, but what are some of your favorite solo dates that you've done or that have maybe you've heard from people that they really were inspired by?
So I like to, I think of it as like a layer cake, right? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
there's three layers to this. There's like the small moments of romanticizing like my day to day and taking the time solo to find those small moments. So something I do now is like I am picking up a new hobby and I sound like a 97-year-old woman. It's puzzling. So I have a puzzle going at my dining room table nearly all times, and I will find a night each week to do like a little in-home date of like, all right, it's puzzle time. I set the lighting, I set the playlist, I make a homemade hot chocolate. It sounds so ridiculous, but like romanticizing those moments. So like the easy, accessible self dates, that's the first layer. And then the next layer is like these I would say like a little step up. Like you got to put a little more effort, a little intentionality into planning. I think my favorites there, they're normally outings for me. My favorite was I went to a concert by myself. I think that felt like maybe the weirdest, most uncomfortable, but then I was surprised to have the best time. Like I
Mm.
thought I would hate it. And I was like, I'll never do this again. I actually don't know that I want to go to a concert with people ever again. Like it was just so
Wow.
wonderful that I was like, I could just enjoy the music. I could sing a lot. Like I wasn't like, are they singing along? Are they having a good time? Are they enjoying
Mm.
it? I got there. I wanted to get there early and I didn't have to be like, okay, I can get there right when the concert starts and miss the openers. The openers are my favorite part. So I was like, I
Mhm.
want to be here early. I want to sit. I was just so excited. And I think it's one of those reminders of like, oh, I would have never known that I wanted to get there early and do that. Like I would have just been like, when does everybody else get there? And then I also went to a Cirque du Soleil show, which I didn't know I love Cirque shows. And I went in Vegas solo and was like, all right, I'm going to give this a try. Had so much fun that when they came to Charlotte, I was like, great, I have another solo date idea. I love Cirque. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of like level two of, all right, you're getting out, you're being intentional. And then I think level three I've unlocked is solo travel. So it's like taking a trip by myself, going somewhere alone to take that time to recoup and really like reinvest. And that takes obviously a lot more intentionality, investment, is a little less accessible, but I like to try and do that. I'm taking my next one very soon, every couple of years at least. So that way I
Mm.
can kind of recharge and get that really deep connection with myself.
Wow. Yeah, I love this perspective of the multiple layers and kind of from day to day up to traveling, however often you're able to do that. And you even mentioned too with the travel, it's a little bit more of a deeper like connection with yourself. So how do you see these solo dates really fueling that well-being and again being proactive about preventing burnout?
So I think in the solo dates, I'm learning to prioritize myself. I'm taking a moment to slow down and listen to myself. It's so much easier to check in with yourself when there's nothing else happening around you. There's nobody sitting next to you, holding a conversation, distracting your attention, right? Like it's just you and you. So then you get to hone in and focus on how am I feeling? What am I experiencing? And you're also solely focused on like your own internal joy, which is such a rare thing. Like, how often do we go have an experience and the only joy we're focused on is our own? So you get to really, I feel like there's different types of phone chargers, right? Like you plug your
Mm.
phone in, some phone chargers are really slow and they'll recharge your battery a little bit. Some are really fast. And I think solo dates are like the really fast charge of like, you're going to get a huge hit of joy. You're going to have so much fun because it's solely your joy. And that's just a different level of joy. And then I think on the other side, like part of burnout for me at least is my inability to hold boundaries sometimes, right? It's
Mm.
this inability to not compromise on my boundaries, to know like, hey, I'm exhausted and I'm going to compromise on that because I think my job needs me to do this. They need this from me. These people need this from me. The more I solo date, the less I am willing to compromise on those boundaries. It's been such
Mm.
an interesting correlation to see like the more I invest in myself, the more I prioritize what I need because it almost adds more value, right? Like I'm like, wow, it's so nice to feel at ease. It's so nice to feel still and safe with myself. That's a beautiful thing that I don't want to compromise on anymore. I don't want to give up. So the more I do that, the more I'm like, wow, I really value. It's almost like when you're dating someone, right? Like the more time you spend with them, the more you value the relationship, the more you're going to protect the relationship. So the more I solo date, the more I protect that. And then I'm less likely to allow the burnout to come in, right? Like I'm going to hold those boundaries to say, hey, you know what? It's 5 o'clock. It's been a long week on a Friday. I'm shutting my computer. This project can wait until Monday. Or, hey, I know you want to go do this. I'm not really feeling up to it. I'd actually rather stay in. Do you want to come in and hang out instead? So it really allows me to say, like, all right, what do I really want to do? And how do I do more of that to hold those boundaries? Because I built that self respect.
Boundaries are so big for burnout and preventing burnout. I totally agree and love all these examples you're sharing. And it's reminding me too, last year when I was in burnout, towards the end of it, I realized I did start doing more solo dating and more finding more little day-to-day activities that could bring me joy. And I realized that was a big part of what was missing beforehand that was causing some of my anxiety and burnout throughout the year. And now I realize it has become more normal for me to do that or more regular of an occurrence. And at first, when I started doing it, one of my favorite times was going to the movies by myself. And it was one of the movie theaters that has food. So I even got dinner, like an early dinner, because that's my favorite. I love to go to bed early. So an early dinner by myself, little cocktail, and watch the new Wicked movie by myself and could really get sucked into it. Like you said about concerts, sometimes when you're with someone else, I don't want to talk with them or I don't want to know what they're doing or be distracted by it. I just want to be in the zone. And that was such a fun day for me. And it's that unexpected joy that came from it of yeah, at first it feels uncomfortable and oh yeah, everyone else there is in a couple or with a family or whatever, but it doesn't matter, and I got so much joy from it. And then another thing I've started doing more on a day-to-day basis, or not every day, but more regularly on a weeknight when I need to not be on my phone, not consuming media, I started origami. And it's another, I feel like grandma habit, like what you were saying, or grandma hobby, which I've heard are becoming more popular in general, like cross stitching too, and anything like
Huge.
that. It's huge right now, which I totally get it now too, is doing something with my hands and not being on my phone. First of all, not being on my phone is amazing and I highly recommend it. Cutting down that as much as you can, but then yeah, doing something really gratifying in just 10 minutes with my hands. And by the end, I have this cute little, whatever it is, these little like creatures I've been creating or flowers, or I have a little panda bookmark that's adorable. And it makes me smile every time I read now because it's looking at me over the book. So something like that, it's just such a little thing, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it is. And it can provide that joy going forward. And I don't know, it's definitely been a game changer for me and burnout too. So I think I was definitely inspired by you talking about this last year. Last time we hung out, it's like, oh, what can I do that's for myself, by myself, and intentional? And even going to coffee shops by myself too has been another one of whether I'm working or just need a coffee fix and go sit in the sun for a little bit. It's really, really fills my cup.
I love that you mentioned no phone. I
Mm.
think that that is a hidden key the more it's like very uncomfortable. I think at first when you go to do something solo, right? And our first instinct is like, okay, how do I numb? How do I avoid the discomfort? Like, what do I do here? And I think like the first like instinct is to open your phone, scroll your phone, right? Like open
Hmm.
Instagram, start texting people, start engaging. I try so hard. What I want to do is like I try to document these, right? Is I'm like, okay, I want to document it. It's doing a little solo date series. Like I want the documentation, but I will allow myself to take my phone out to document and then it has to go away. There's
Mm.
no like texting back and forth. There's no scrolling. You have to sit with that discomfort. And like we're so
Mm.
used to it's like our phone is like a security blanket, right? It's this little
It is.
security blanket where we don't have to feel the uncomfortable things. It's like you have to sit with that discomfort and be okay with that. And then on the other side of that is that joy you were talking about of like, I'm so zoned in. I'm so in the moment. I'm like so full of joy, but it's so easy to derail that if you're like, all right, I need to scroll. I need to be talking to somebody. I need to be plugged in. Like the unplugging, I think, is the hidden
Mm.
benefit of any of these solo dates and spending that time with yourself. Because you really can't, if you're spending time with yourself, but you're plugged into your phone, you're still not really alone. You're not doing the solo
Mm.
thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, it's usually your first instinct is to grab your phone and stay connected for most people and go down Instagram or text people, oh, I'm out by myself. I'm so proud of myself. It's like, no, you don't have to prove yourself to anyone. You don't need to talk to anyone. And that's kind of the point is to spend time by yourself. It allows you to be more present. It allows you to, like I said, zone in, find more joy. And yeah, I think too, one place I see a lot of people struggle with this is going out to eat by themselves, which is something I've done quite a few times since I can remember actually. And I know other people are always like, how do you do that? Isn't that so hard or uncomfortable? Like I just bring like a book or my Kindle and I'm the same where I'm
That's
like,
the hack.
I don't want to be on my phone. I want to, or even traveling a lot, I end up at a airport restaurant or bar by myself and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna do something that brings me joy, put headphones in, listen to music, read on my Kindle, and again, get in the zone by yourself and be present. And I think a lot of people struggle with that because I've heard that a lot from other people that I don't know how you do that. How can you do that? I'm like, yeah, that's it. I guess a Kindle for me, at least Kindle music, and you're good. And
I feel like the first level is like you have to have something like, okay, if I'm not going to bring my phone, I started bringing my Kindle. And so if I get uncomfortable or I'm feeling like, hey, I want something, and also sometimes I'm reading a really good book and there's
yeah.
nothing that sounds better. So my favorite Charlotte like setup is I will take my Kindle and I will go to Oku and they have the best gluten-free sushi. So I will sit there at the sushi bar with my Kindle and I swear the servers are like, what is happening here? But I'm like, it's great because it's a way to be in tune with yourself, not plugged into a device, but also have that barrier that you're not just sitting there staring at people, not knowing what to do with yourself. Like it gives you that like little bit to occupy. I feel like the ultimate boss level is like I bring nothing. And then I'm like, all right, I'm feeling really good. But sometimes I need my Kindle. I feel like it's my emotional security Kindle. It comes in place with my phone. And that is where I'll like, okay, this is a device I can bring. I'll bring my book or my Kindle. And I think that's a nice like kind of leeway in if you're really nervous about going to dinner by yourself, doing something like going to a coffee shop by yourself. Bring your Kindle, bring your book, bring something you're enjoying at that moment. Maybe it's your journal, and bring that. And that kind of helps ease the discomfort a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah, I think a lot of the discomfort, like you said, is worrying you're going to just be looking at other people or staring at people. And I think
Yeah.
too, we get in our heads that other people are then staring at us and looking at us and judging us. Oh, she's the weirdo by herself at a coffee shop or having dinner by herself. But honestly, first of all, it doesn't matter what people are thinking about you. Like, you probably don't know them. It doesn't matter what they're thinking. But also, I think we overestimate how much other people think about us. Everyone else is dealing with their own stuff in their own world and having their own conversations at dinner. So you'll be fine. They're likely not even thinking about you. Or, yeah, maybe they saw you like, oh, that's cool. Good for her sitting by herself. That's great
Yeah.
too. We would love that. But yeah, it doesn't matter. Just you do
It's
you.
likely positive, right? Like they're likely like, wow, that's when I see somebody eating solo, I'm like, yeah, I love that. That's amazing. And most people aren't like, wow, what a weirdo. They're like, wow, that's so cool. I wish I could do that.
Yeah, I'm sure that's most people's thoughts because, again, this is hard for a lot of people. So, any other advice for people who are a little nervous to try solo dating for the first time or are having these fears of how uncomfortable it could be, like maybe where to start or anything else to think about?
I would say start small. If you're really nervous about starting small is a great way to kind of build that confidence with yourself that you're capable of doing this, that it's okay, it's comfortable, like nothing bad happens when you go solo somewhere cool. And then I think my other tip is find things that you're really excited about that other people like. If you want to go do something and you ask everybody to go do it. So, for example, if I wanted to go to this concert and I said, and I know my taste in music is so different than my friends. So it's like if I had have asked and been like, hey, does anybody want to go? They'd be like, we're all set. Thanks though. Don't not go to those things, right? Like those are
Mm,
perfect moments to be like, okay, nobody wants to go. Can I go alone? Like that's a great opportunity to go and do those things. And then finding the things that you're like, somebody might think this is dumb. I don't want to go do this. Like, great opportunity too. If it's exciting to you, even in the slightest, and you're not even certain if you like it, but you might like it, go alone. It's what a great way to like go and experience it, not have the pressure of like liking it or not liking it with somebody sitting there and having to discuss, like, oh, yeah, it was a good time. I hated it, but I'm going to tell you it was a good time, right? Like, it's you. You get to decide if you like it or not. And it's just you. And it's such a fun, easy way to kind of figure out what do you like, what do you not like, and then as far as like the home, I think the home solo dating is super important in that time with yourself. Find like different things that you might like. Puzzling for me is probably I think my third level. I ordered a keyboard a couple years ago where I was like, I just want to learn to play piano. I'm not good by any means. It is not good, but it was that time with myself. And it was just a something of like, I've always wanted to do this. Why not now? Right. Like
mm,
finding those things that like, and origami is a great one where it's like, what have you thought was fun and kind of silly maybe? And you're like, wow, can I do this? Will this bring me a small amount of joy? Great. I want to learn to do something, learn to upskill. Maybe there's something I think this grandma core is really big right now. Everybody's loving these grandma hobbies. Like find if you want to start knitting, crocheting, like something that's small and fun is going to bring you joy. It's a great place to start and then kind of continuing to level up. And then as I mentioned, the solo trip, if you're in a spot to do that, life changing and will absolutely change the relationship you have with yourself, in my opinion.
mm. Yeah, these are great examples of, easy ways to get into it, get started. And something coming to mind too for these level two, level three, when you're out and about or the concert, traveling, and most of our listeners are women. So any thoughts on when it comes to like safety? And I'm sure that's a lot of people's concern or why they're not doing some of this. What are some things that you do to feel more safe when you're either traveling or again like a concert by yourself? I'm sure that's something, because I know even for me going to the movies by myself, I was a little aware of that. Okay, I'm all by myself in a dark room, with strangers. I should, be aware of that and be cautious.
I think that's honestly what has been the biggest like hurdle for me to tackle is like, how do I go and feel safe? I'm a little bit of an anxious human to begin with. So safety is like the first thing that's on my mind where I'm like, okay, I don't want to go and not feel safe because I'm not going to enjoy my time. One
Mm-hmm.
thing I always do is my location is shared with a handful of people. So like my closest friends who live here in Charlotte, my parents back home have my location, my friends back, my location is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
For better or for worse,
Safely.
like
Yeah.
safely with the right friends, the right people, but
Yes.
like it's with my internal people. They know where I am at all times. If
Mm,
I'm going somewhere solo, especially like for example, a solo trip, I will tell my parents and or my friends, hey, here's where I'm going, here's where I'm supposed to be on these days. If you don't see that movement happening, that's a good time to worry. That's a good
mm,
time for some concern. I'll do a check-in too of like, hey, I've made it here. Hey, I've made it here. So making sure I have those checkpoints and then also being aware of your surroundings. I traveled a
mm,
lot solo for work in my first couple of years at that first startup. And it was like, I very quickly learned like, you have to be aware of what's happening around you. When you come into a room, just do a quick scan. If something doesn't feel gut right, that's okay to leave at any point too. At any point, if you don't feel safe in a space, like it's okay to know, hey, I can leave. It's okay to turn
mm,
around, go home. You do not have to be there. I will say try and push yourself if it's just a nervous piece of like, I feel like it's safe, but I'm just a little nervous. Push yourself a little bit, but you trusting your gut more than you think, like your gut is going to tell you when something isn't safe. We are 9 times out of 10, we ignore our intuition. Women's intuition is exceptional. We usually know when something is not safe. We usually can have that feeling. Listen to that, lean into that, respect that. And then I would say, when you're going to something like a concert. Very similarly, like I'm going to an intentional concert. The concert I went to it was a mellow, like it was Vance Joy. If anybody knows Vance Joy, I know that people going to Vance Joy, there's like I wasn't going to a Lil Wayne concert by myself, which might be a little more excited. People might be drinking more, and like I just am mindful of the environment I'm going to. Right, like I'm using my common sense to say everyone going to a Vance Joy concert there's probably going to be relatively few drunk people. I think drunk people are what make me most nervous, is people who just aren't in
Mhm.
control of their body and aren't aware and might be a little more bold. So I'm just mindful of those environments. So I try to specifically pick environments where I know I'm going to feel safe, and the likelihood is that I will be safe.
Definitely. Yeah, and one more piece to add on here. I was just thinking about I did a women's self-defense class a few months ago, and the first thing the trainer mentioned is that one of the biggest things that is getting women in trouble, or people, I guess, in general, but mostly women, is that when you're out in public, you're on your phone. Again, we're going back to the phone and how unhelpful it is. But if you're, especially me, I love to go for walks, greenways, parks, whatever. And it can be a little scary going by myself. So that always sticks in my mind. I don't have my phone out. And I see a lot of women doing it though. It honestly scares me when I see that. And when you have both headphones in too, you're not aware of your surroundings for both of those things. So I always do one headphone and I keep my phone in my pocket. If I need to change a song, I bring it out quickly, but I'm always also like scanning around me, know who's there and where maybe safety lights or phones are, whatever it is, and just again have people know where you are. But something as simple as that, it's really, really unfortunate that as women we have to be worried for ourselves and we have to be this cautious and aware of our surroundings. But I want to double down on that. That's something it's super important. And please don't be on your phone when you're even walking through parking lots in the dark and
Yeah.
things like that. Just always have your head on a swivel and yeah, be aware of your surroundings.
Pepper spray. Amazon sells this really fabulous pepper spray keychain that I have. It goes everywhere with me. Obviously, I don't fly with it. I don't travel internationally with it. I'm not trying to open that can of worms, but like every time I go for a walk, bring the
Mhm.
pepper spray. And just like Brittany said,
Yes.
like I'm not on my phone. My head is up. I don't have both headphones in. Having both headphones in, I'm not going to hear if somebody is talking to me, coming up behind me. Like just hearing and being aware of your surroundings, then you can listen to that gut instinct. I think it's hard to hear if you have all of your senses kind of clogged up and can't be in tune with what's happening.
Definitely. Okay, I don't want to end on this somber note. So, what is your next solo date you have coming up?
So I have a big solo trip coming up,
Mm,
which is huge for me. I am going to London, Dublin, and Edinburgh, and I'm doing
wow.
like a 9 day, 10 day trip through the UK, taking an overnight. And this is actually one that's really interesting, taking an overnight train as a solo traveler. I
Mm,
did it when I went to France, and it was the coolest thing ever, the coolest experience. I felt very safe. And I'm doing it again from London to Edinburgh. And I'm just going to be diving around and exploring around the UK and really getting that time to connect with myself. And I'm really excited because I've just been feeling like I've needed some disconnected time. I've been very much in the hustle season of working a lot, consulting a lot, trying to balance two full-time jobs is it's a crazy feat, but I'm managing it. So it felt like those spots, I picked them very intentionally of like, okay, other than London, London is because I'm a Harry Potter nerd and I'm trying to lead into those fun things that wouldn't normally do with people. But the other two feel like a little slower, a little less fast paced, a little more nature. I'm going to touch some grass. It's going to be
mm.
amazing. I'm really excited.
Love that. Yeah, and it goes back to the childlike joy and childlike wonder, which I think is such a interesting and cool perspective to have around this too. Get back to your roots and what makes you happy, and it doesn't have to be productive. It doesn't have to be something you have to explain to other people or justify why you want to do it. Just do it. If it makes you happy, go do it. Figure it out.
Yeah, and romanticize it. I can't stress that
Mhm.
enough, like, romanticizing every little detail, every small thing. I will have a puzzle and bath night tonight just because it's a Friday night. It's been a long week, and I just need a little recharge, so I'm already, like, dreaming about my hot chocolate. I have some special ice cream from a local ice cream,
Mhm.
like, I have the whole thing envisioned. It's like, if you can romanticize those small moments with yourself, how special is that? Like, don't wait for somebody to come along to romanticize them for you. You're in
Mhm.
charge of that. You get to bring all of the romance into your life in whatever way you want. Why skimp? Why not have it all?
Beautiful. Okay, that is a great note to end on, romanticizing your life, even the small moments. And I feel like I did that last night with cooking. I was really intentional and made this amazing lemon parmesan risotto, which is one of my favorite
Ooh,
meals to make. But I was just very like slow paced doing it and just, yeah, wanted the process by myself. And I don't know, I got really in the zone and listened to one of my favorite artists. And yeah, that was it. And it was such a like romantic moment by myself of just cooking a really delicious and also very needy meal that you really have to pay attention to.
Yeah, risotto is not for the faint of heart. Like a good risotto takes some TLC.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's perfect. Like keeps my attention. I'm using my hands, listening to beautiful music. And that's it. Not on my phone.
The ideal night, truly.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Mandy. How can listeners connect with you?
So I am on all of the socials, which as I talk about unplugging more. But if you're interested in following along for my solo trip, more solo dates, probably the best way to find me is on Instagram. So I am Mandy Rogers VT on Instagram. I love new friends. Please come engage. Please come tell me about your solo dates. If you have questions about solo dates, I would love to answer them. Deeming myself a solo date master at this point.
And thank you for sharing all of your insights today.
Thank you, Brittany. It was great.
Yes, and thank you to our listeners for joining today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps new people find the podcast and in turn find the support that they're looking for as well. That's it for today. We'll see you in the next episode.